That game was not as good as Game Awards nominee Claire Obscure Expedition 33, but it was still pretty okay. In the past, I took a look at what every single Mega Evolution from Pokémon X and Y and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire could potentially be based on, whether it be folklore, mythology, or Irwin-style fun facts. So now that we've had enough time to get to know the new kids on the block introduced in Legends ZA, I think it's about time I followed up on my promise and explore what may have inspired the wave of Mega Evolutions we've been waiting 11 years for. But Paul, what's Mega Evolution? Normally I would roast you for not watching the other videos first, but that's okay! We live in a world where non-linear storytelling exists, and jokes aside, Legends ZA did actually develop the lore of Mega Evolution. Not a lot, but enough for me to justify rewriting this segment. To TLDR the lore of Mega Evolution as of ZA's base game, a man named AZ wanted to revive his Floette. You only get one per save file after all. To do this, he built a machine that harnessed the life-altering abilities of Xerneas and Yveltal. After firing the machine, the light radiated special stones underground which would react to specific species of Pokémon. This would lead Professor Sycamore in modern day to theorize that Xerneas and Yveltal's powers could be the cause of Mega Evolution, which isn't completely true, but it might be how Megastones were discovered, the items used by Pokémon to Mega Evolve, thanks to a blinged out Lucario. AZ would later find out for himself that the origins to Mega Evolution lie with the Dragonite people of the Hoenn region, who passed down the story for generations of how meteorites landed on Earth and would be used to convene with Rayquaza to save the Hoenn region from Kyogre and Groudon slapping. Just like how in modern day, a keystone is held by a Pokémon trainer, there are some lore crumbs about Diance's diamonds potentially being crystallized Mega Energy, potentially being the cause of Carbink mutating in the first place, but this hasn't fully been explored yet. Mega Evolution causes Pokémon in their fully evolved state to break the limits of natural evolution, when a trainer and Pokémon share a tight bond and matching jewelry, creating enough energy to break a Glalie jaw or Tyranitar's back. But they're cool with it. In Pokémon Legends ZA, we've been introduced to over 20 new Mega Evolutions throughout the story, a lot more prevalent than back in the day when you really had to fight for these things. It's speculated that all of these new Mega Evolutions exist thanks to the events of Pokémon X and Y, with the latest firing of AZ's weapon radiating even more Megastones. So let's see if it was worth it. Sorry, Geosenge Town. And take a look at what each one of these weird and wonderful creatures has to offer. We're starting off with one for the Gully Pops. Clefable has historically been a pretty generic fairy, pixie, winged humanoid thumb with ties to the moon or space, with their trademark being their star-shaped body. You may initially think that Mega Clefable loses this shape with their bonds shoving their ears to the wayside as 2 more points to the star. But while taking to the skies with their flying-type wings, I think this Mega Evolution wants to bring Clefable back to the skies as the Pleiades. The Pleiades are a group of, traditionally, 7 stars in the sky that lie across the ecliptic line, which has been interpreted by pretty much every culture under the sun, but if we're thinking of fairies specifically, Neo-paganism calls the Pleiades by a different name. In this belief, the 7 stars act as a gateway symbol between the human and fairy realms, kind of like how Mega Evolution brings us all together like a happy functioning family. Also, like Cardcaptor Sakura probably. Victreebel at this point is a little basic. We've had like over 30 years of Morballs causing problems in Final Fantasy, other grass poison Pokemon to pick from, and Little Shop of Horrors exists. Victreebel is your everyday carnivorous pitcher plant, potentially being based on Sarracenia, but I believe Mega Victreebel wants nothing more than to break out of the generic and leap into the purple ooze from the Power Rangers movie, I guess. Their insane growth might be a reference to the villainous alien plant from Little Shop, Audrey 2, but if we want to be a bit more scientific about biology and not my silly little theatre, Mega Victreebel has grown from a smaller Sarracenia to an overwhelming Nepenthes genus plant. The fact that they tie their little polite mouth up might not just be to look nice either. See, in Japan at summer festivals, there's a game called Yo-Yo Tsuri, where children fish up water balloons with metal hooks on paper. You'll see kids with water balloons a lot in Japanese media at these festivals, and I can only imagine how many of these balloons popped on the way home, which might be where the designers thought of Victreebel's spillage problem. I can hear the cries from the villagers now. The people are asking very politely yet very loudly, "Why did Game Freak do that to my starfish?" Let's calm down for a second and remember who we're talking about. Yeah, so Starmie is a starfish. Their psychic nature and general connection with extraterrestrial life might be a reference to the tokusatsu series Ultraman. In the series, every hero has a gem on their chest which lets them fire their early YouTube laser. Which brings us to the knees. Yeah, so Mega Starmie might as well be called Ultra Starmie because Starmie wanted to be human so bad. This is canon, by the way. They are now susceptible to joint pain. This more humanoid form might also be inspired by the Pyroar from the 1956 film Warning from Space. These starfish-shaped aliens, thanks to movie magic, were just loose cloth outfits where you can very much tell we weren't working with Dalek budget here. The main plot of the film revolves around one Pyroar disguising themselves as a human woman, letting humanity know, hey, a whole planet is about to crash into Earth. You might want to clean that up. Guys, Mega Starmie really isn't that bad. It's not great, but I remember the Dragonite jokes from 10 years ago. I've been in these mines. And seeing Mega Dragonite after all this time sure did remind me that time happens. At their core, Dratini, Dragonair, and Dragonite all represent the cycle of life of traditional Chinese dragons as described in the text Shi Yi Ji, where a water snake would transform into a Jiao, and then various forms of Long, finally transforming into the winged Yinglong. Mega Dragonite completes the tale as a fully realized Yinglong, encompassing Dragonair and Dragonite's key defining features alongside all the forms the Yinglong underwent. She's a simple girl, but clearly that doesn't mean she's not beautiful. Oh look, another one we've been joking about for years. Meganium's seemingly simple design has some deceiving depth to it. As a creature, they seem to look like an Apatosaurus, best known for their long necks, herbivore diet, and relation to the more commonly known Brontosaurus. So why Big Flower? Well, what if Meganium isn't actually a dinosaur, but a plant mimicking one for survival? Meganium might be taking inspiration from giant flowers like the Titan Arum, best known for its giant neck-like stamen, as well as design inspiration from lilies or geraniums. Mega Meganium might actually prove this ever so slightly, as their Mega Evolution sees the plant-like features take over their body, growing stacks of lilies like they have been seen to stack in real life, curling antennae, and ruffling feet. While there isn't exactly much introduced with this design, the fact Meganium may have been chosen to Mega Evolve at all might be referencing the sightings of the Mokole Mbembe, a creature known from Bantu mythology that often appears as a spirit of the dinosaurs at the water's edge, which may have influenced the newly gained fairy type. Feraligatr is, in comparison, quite simple. This man is both crocodile and alligator, adopting traits of both species in their animations and mannerisms. Mega Feraligatr does have a bit more cultural oomph to it. Trust me, not just a Funko Pop Bakugan. In Hindu mythology, the Makara is a creature usually depicted as a giant crocodilian head, which over time may have been conflated with traditionally Chinese dragons and the Kitos of Greek mythology, which more than justifies the new dragon type. As for why the head flips and flaps, false heads aren't all too common with reptiles, but the thorny devil does have the image of one across its spines. Also, there's a trend in design called Atamadakachi. Sometimes a big head is just cuter. Skarmory is a weird one, because they're already very strong, very good Pokemon, and they're most likely based on a pretty special group of birds called the Symphalian birds. Vicious, sharp-feathered creatures who were the pets of Artemis, goddess of the hunt in Greek mythology. While Mega Skarmory might simply elevate on that concept with giant scythe-like talons, the new golden navy coloration could be a cheeky reference to the Midas touch, where King Midas did in fact turn a bird and its cage into gold in some stories. Or it could be a reference to alchemy, where the golden phoenix represents perfection. It can't just be a coincidence that with Mega Skarmory, all 4 colours that represent the alchemical processes are represented, right? Right? It's not just a goofy crane? Please? Froslass, being one of Pokemon's most faithful reimaginings of a beloved yokai tale, is one of the reasons why she's so well loved. So let me explain who the Yuki Onna are to catch you up to speed. The Yuki Onna are bewitching spirit women in the snowy mountains of Japan, who are well known to lure men in with their beauty, with plenty of stories talking about how some even married and truly fell in love with their prey. Mega Froslass not only looks like that, but may tie in design inspiration from another female female yokai, the Taka Onna. They were supposedly everyday women who were deemed too ugly to marry, and in their jealousy grew tall and twisted. They are said to not be particularly deadly, but enjoy scaring and harassing people who seek a not-so-family-friendly kind of pleasure. But seeing as Mega Froslass is not ugly and a queen, the longer body may be a cruel irony to the yokai as she wears fine Japanese wedding wear like shiromuku, which features simple patterns and many layers. If you want to learn more about the whole Snowround family, I recently watched this video by Pokesutami, where I learned a bit more about kimono specifically. Rounding off our starters from Legends ZA, Emboar was my choice. Emboar is a bore. But Ken Sugimori has gone on the record to say that this Chinese-inspired family takes notes from Zhang Fei from The Romance of the Three Kingdoms, a king who was depicted as a drunk but with a powerful presence. Zhang Fei doesn't actually have anything to do with pigs or boars though, so this might be a callback to Journey of the West's Zhu Bajie, the pig demon who joined Sun Wukong on his travels. Mega Emboar doesn't really do too much differently like the other starters, but it doubles down on Zhang Fei's influence, taking some more of the physicality from the real-life figure and his famous Zhang Long serpent spear. Moles are moles. Excadrill being one of them. There's not really much more to say about moles themselves, as they are in fact moles. But historically, moles have been tied with mysticism or mythology, whether it be them being omens of ill health of many Native American tribes, or the prophecy of the Moldwarp King. After the passing of King John, it was prophesied that the 6th king to take the crown would be a cowardly, unfit king who would constantly be attacked by animals, leading him to exile on an island all on his own. Moldwarps are just what they called moles back then. Mega Excadrill is a subterranean boring machine. Sometimes a mole is just a mole. You could interpret its horn as the Moldwarp King's crown, but come on now. Scolipede is a fun buggy mix of different many-legged creepy crawlies. There's a bit of Gigantea, a smidge of Singulata, some throwbacks to the ancient Antroplura, but the millipede is probably the greatest factor here, since the red... oh my god, I've got to pronounce this now. Archispirostreptoscigus looks like if Scolipede had a really good spa day. Mega Scolipede takes some more references from all parts of Scolipede's background, possibly being a clever take on the Polyxenus family of millipedes, which may be named after the warrior king of Elis from Greek legend who fought in the Trojan War. This might be a stretch, especially off the coattails of the mole. Scrafty's whole deal is a take on how lizards shed their skin, with a nice touch of urban fashion to back them up. If we want to be a bit more specific, they might be based on the iguana thanks to their crest. Mega Scrafty seems to have gone for the Primani special, with their hood growing into a hoodie and trading their jokers in for a nicer matching white set. While Mega Scrafty might not have a lot of mythology or legend for me to speak on, they might be a commentary on how street fashion has shifted since they were originally designed, going from big, bright colours to more monotone or muted ones, even in their shiny form. I'm not the biggest fashion historian though, so forgive me if I'm a little off-trend with that one. The bright and contrasting colours that Eelektross wears best tie them to the ribbon eel, an equally colourful and wire-looking sea creature. Their more monster-like features could come from the lamprey, like the false eye markings they have, or that horrible dental job. Their cultural significance is a bit nicer though, since the way they swim in their controversial 3D animations makes them look like a koi nobori, a windsock used to celebrate Children's Day in Japan, a holiday that celebrates each child's happiness and individuality. Shout out to Tarragon and Canary for no reason. Mega Eelektross might even take this concept even further as they create some partner electric looking mucus that resembles a whole row of these things. This concept of mucus bodies comes from hagfish, who create these as a way to prevent predators from getting to their real bodies. Chandelure is an absolutely gorgeous Pokemon that truly needs no explanation. That's Chandelier. But let's not sell them too short now. Pokemon has been using Will-O-Wisps for nearly 30 years. So, of course, their first Ghost and Fire Pokemon had to be a magnificent interpretation of them too. Will-O-Wisps are generally known as Hitodama in Japan, flames that represent the human spirits of the recently deceased. There are also Onibi, more malicious flames that suck the life out of nearby humans. I think that Mega Chandelure, while fabulous in their two-tiered beauty, might be an abridged reference to the Chochin Obake. This yokai is a paper lantern so old that their body grows and splits the structure beneath, which may be represented by the second tier Chandelure has grown. They aren't particularly dangerous yokai, but are often mimicked by more dangerous, vengeful spirits due to their unassuming nature. Chesnaught is your typical warrior. They're what you get when armored mammals like pangolins fuse with a hedgehog covered in conkers. Mega Chesnaught gets a well-earned promotion to a king or captain of the royal guard, adorned with a shiny barboot helmet, regal crimson cloak, and a DIY battle axe. The barboot takes inspiration from ancient Greek armors like Corinthian helmets, while one famous battle axe was wielded by King Stephen of England, best known for his skillful wielding of the sword and Dane axe in the Battle of Lincoln. I know Chesnaught wasn't exactly a popular choice back in the day, so I'm glad my Kalos starter finally got something cool. By the time Kalos came around, foxes weren't an exactly new concept to Pokemon, so making a Fennec Fox one of the starting partners of X and Y sure was brave of them. Delphox and their family stands out a bit more though, with their magic abilities potentially taken from the Kitsune and Kitsunetsuki, women who were possessed by Kitsune who would go on to bring prosperity to their families. Kitsunetsuki are well adept for divination or acting as mediums, and this is where Delphox adapts more Western witch-like traits, like their wand. Delphox's flame-wielding wand, while generic, might be closest to the ceremonial ones found in Enochian magic or used by the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. The wand traditionally represents 2 of the 4 elements used in the Golden Dawn, air or fire. This all comes from a book called The Key of Solomon, where the author, Eliphas Levi, would inspire the first wands used for rituals. Mega Delphox takes the more vague aspects of Delphox's design and cranks them up to be a lot more obvious, with not only more wands, but a flying broomstick and billowing beard extensions to fully look the part of a Western witch. Very hocus pocus. Much like Delphox, by Kalos we had quite a few froggies to pick from, so Froakie and Greninja really had to stand out. Or not. While they of course look like the average leaf frog, we all know that Greninja is, of course, a ninja. This may be a reference to a folk story in Japan known as Jiraiya Goketsu Monogatari, where a valiant ninja called Jiraiya would transform into a giant toad. In this saga, Jiraiya would train to avenge his clan from the devastation of Orochimaru, a friend of his possessed by a demonic snake. Mega Greninja looks even more the part with their giant water shuriken, darker skin that resembles a traditional ninja outfit, and of course, that core strength. I'm afraid we're back in mole territory. Pyroar sure is a lion. Maybe their black fur is reference to andirons or fire dogs. They sit on a fireplace. They usually have pretty golden heads of animals like lions, but honestly I'm trying my best with what I've got here. Mega Pyroar? Bigger lion. Look, in plenty of cultures, fire and lions are very commonly tied to one another, specifically the sun. But Pyroar doesn't exactly give me a lot to bite on when they do just look like a lion with little more to it. In alchemy, the lion eating a sun is a very common motif, and the zodiac sign for Leo is of course a fire sign represented by a lion. It could be possible that Mega Pyroar's mane gets bigger to represent Bastet's crown, the sun warrior goddess of Egyptian mythology represented by a cat or lioness, but I really would have hoped that more of the design would give credit to that rather than just a new wig. Florges and their family are like the most fairy family to ever fairy. They're little pixies that hold onto flowers like a parasol until they weave a nice wig out of them, kind of in the shape of popular 18th century hairstyles. Actually, can I trade this one in? We don't want to talk about this one right now. That one. Eternal Flower Floette isn't like your average lily-holding fae, but they hold a trillium, meant to symbolize beauty, perfection, and grace. This is the concept that manifests itself in the twisted Mega Floette. The trillium and the eternal flower take on the shape of the triquetra, a symbol known in many cultures as the perfect shape, and has been used since the Iron Age in many designs and ornaments. This represents many things in the context of Legend ZA, but I personally see AZ, Ange, and the Ultimate Weapon collectively representing the cycle and disruption of life, where Floette wasn't exactly given the agency to her own. This is very clearly shown by the flower taking hold of Floette's body before causing the Paris incident. Malamar is... you're never gonna believe this. A squid! A bloopy, inky squid. Hitoshi Ariga, who designed Malamar and many other Pokemon, has gone on to say that the reason they're upside down is because squids are often drawn that way in books. While it would be easy enough to compare Malamar to Lovecraft's most famous creation, the otherworldly godlike Cthulhu, Malamar is a more human evil, kind of like the Illithids from Dungeons & Dragons and Baldur's Gate fame. Supernatural squidmen with psionic abilities that hypnotize, enthrall, and will stop at nothing for their pursuit of power. Mega Malamar takes these supernatural elements through the roof with longer light-tipped tentacles, a slimmer, more alien figure, and they could be inspired by how final bosses in shows like Tokusatsu almost always get a powered-up final form in the last arc of the series. Barnacles are weird. I don't like them. But they gave Barbaracle a Mega, so I am going to have to talk about them very briefly. Specifically, goose barnacles, with their claw-like appearance, grab onto surfaces and feed to clean water. I'd argue Barbaracle's main concept, though, comes in their eyes and hands motif. This might be inspired by the Hamsa, or Hand of Fatima, an amulet with roots in Mesopotamian beliefs and Ishtar, to ward off the gaze of the evil eye, or Malocchio, which is a curse observed in many religions and beliefs. The multi-eyed brawler design might come from the multi-eyed watcher Argus from Greek mythology, who was not only covered in eyes to see, but to protect. This is where Mega Barbaracle comes in to take both of these concepts to 11, with the Mesopotamian Hansa potentially evolving into the evil eye itself, hinted by the horned gesture the head now takes, as well as ancient Greek figures like Hecatoncheires, who were known for their many arms. Dragalge has always been a bit of a sleeper hit. I think despite Dragalge being a pretty paint-by-colours take on a leafy sea dragon, they do lend themselves to being a very well-designed Pokemon. Mega Dragalge seemingly adds more kelp-like features, with coral and giant draping laminaria leaves, as well as a Pokédex entry that reveals their poison has become carcinogenic. Or cancerous. This reminds me of Typhon from Greek mythology, who has been depicted as a serpent made of tendrils or hairs that spewed a viper's poison. Typhon was also depicted with multiple heads, which may be why Mega Dragalge has new coral eyes. But this is a stretch on my part because I just think they're neat. Hawlucha has always represented luchadors and traditional Mexican wrestling or lucha libre, where these masked wrestlers fight more freestyle and agile. Mega Hawlucha really harkens back to some of those greats like Tinieblas, El Solitario, Oro, or Rey Mysterio, with their black and gold outfit. The significance of this new mask dates all the way back to the Aztecs, where in fact some of the highest ranked, most fearless soldiers in the Aztec army were known as Eagle Warriors. They had to earn their way to the top through a rite of passage, earning them access to finer weapons and battle dress, just like Hawlucha has. We all knew coming into Legends ZA that Zygarde would be getting the facelift they rightfully deserve, especially with the whole sun and moon of it all. And Mega Zygarde is certainly impressive. Historically, we've known Zygarde as an allegory for Nidhogg, the world serpent guarding the roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree, to go on to take inspiration for their various forms from the children of Loki, Fenrir, Jormungandr, and potentially Hel and Loki themselves. I believe Mega Zygarde adds another layer of Norse mythology to the titan that is Zygarde, representing Heimdall, guardian of the world tree who was best known for his Gjallarhorn, or in this case, a pea shooter. This not only harkens back to Loki, as Heimdall was fated to battle to the death against them, but Nidhogg's role as a guardian of Yggdrasil, as Heimdall protected the Holy Land of the Aesir and humanity, just like Zygarde did in the game. These little guys sure are cute though, huh? Drampa has always been based on a traditional Chinese dragon, namely the Julong, known for being a dragon with the face of an old man, who brought in the day, night, and the winds, represented by Drampa's cloud-like pillowy body. So, story time. When I first saw Mega Drampa in-game, I turned to my partner in complete awe and screamed. Mega Drampa. Mega Drampa's a god dragon. They're based on Shenlong, the Chinese dragon god of storms, tempests, and depicted as an azure dragon. Emperors wore robes draped in Shenlong's image to revere him, protecting their land and their country from the boisterous dragon's wrath. Last, but mathematically not least, is Falinks. Falinks are what you get when you mix Pac-Man with the Phalanx, a military soldier position where shields protect every vulnerable angle, commonly attributed to the ancient Greeks and exactly how Falinks looks. For a bit more historical context, because I'm nothing without context, their debut in the Galar region might be referencing the lost legion of Roman soldiers, Legio IX Hispana, which mysteriously disappeared in 120 AD. Mega Falinks sees the brass, that's the head honcho ball, grow a bit more than the others, assuming the role of the core as they carry and get carried by the others. This formation, or gattai, is commonly seen in many mecha shows and tokusatsu, designed so kids could easily construct the toys like they'd see on the show. And that's it! That's what every single Mega Evolution from Legends ZA might be based on. That's it, no more. Yes, I see the logo. I'll get there when I get there. Before, I thought the through line for Mega Evolution was exaggeration. Every Mega Evolution takes an aspect of that Pokemon's design and breaks the dial on it. But I think this wave of Megas has more of an emphasis on characterization too. Each of the new Mega Evolutions, in one way or another, wants to bring a bit more character out of the game's insane animations, or creating a more memorable silhouette. So, who were your favourite new Mega Evolutions? What was it like seeing some of your old favourites back in action? Are you looking forward to seeing some more in the Mega Dimension DLC? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe to see what I get up to. And maybe, just maybe, we can see each other again.